Da, 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 na, 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 na. Boom, okay. Hey, good, the mic's on. And the music's playing, and let's get going. So as you can see, I'm continuing the painting of that cockpit. Wiping off the brushing. You'll see in the upper corner I'm, painting at the lightning speed. But yeah, just filling in some of the little details there, and I'll fill more again later. Now I go to the rest of the cockpit, painting the big background, instrument pieces that are there black. I know I didn't get any fun aftermarket photo etch for this, but again, this was meant to be a quick thing. So quick I didn't take my hair out of the way of this one there. So there I go, clean off the brush, and then I'll probably grab some paint in this or not. Yep, okay. So here what I'm doing is the ink wash, which is that interior of the cockpit's a bit light, and I'm going to have to, as you see here, take this thing and mix up very thin paint, like 10 to 1 at least, if not 50 to something absurd to 1. Just enough that it gets into all the little crevices like you see up in this corner here, as I start getting ready to do the dry brushing. So dry brushing, you're about to see a good example of it here. I did a little wrong, didn't get quite all the paint off, but you want just a skosh of paint on there. Then you start going over all the raised edges, kind of just, willy-nilly. You'll see in the corners of the screen when I do the time-lapse sections where things go a lot faster. So here I'm trying to add now the white paint onto the various levers of these side pieces of the cockpit itself with a very thin brush. And I have to say, this is probably one of the things I hate most about acrylic paint, is that they dry so fast that if you're doing tiny details like that, it dries on your brush. And this is like a paint meant for miniatures. Really, brand that shall not be named. Yeah, they've officially, yeah. Long story short, I'm still miffed about Games Workshop's the decision to go after fan animation creators. But anyways, so then more dry brushing, get everything kind of highlighted up. And here you'll see me just painting over a little bit of the cockpit details that just needed a bit of correcting. Before finally this is where I add the rest of the cockpit. So I add the fighter pilot in. I think he falls out later as I'm working on things. That he fell out when, you'll see the surprise at the end. So there we go. Lots of glue in various points. And then, of course, we put in the cockpit control panel, and you'll see all the finagling that took in the corners. So there we are. Add more glue again to keep everything down, because never seems to take the first application. Some would say that I should just get the, like the tester's glue or something with a bit more tack. And that might help with this. I mean, I use that strategy for the small photo etch stuff I did for the Dreadnought, which I will be getting back to eventually. But I use this because it's instantly drying. It bonds the plastic together. And in doing that, it actually is going to make things, actually makes things better overall. And now that the fuselage is being held together, I go ahead and start gluing everything together on that front. And of course, this will mess up the paint a little bit because this glue will dissolve the paint. But honestly, I'm not all that upset about it. Just move a little editing bar here. And along with that, I go ahead and I remove some of the excess that comes up whenever you glue two seams together. That little bit of melted plastic just splurts out from between those seams. And then, of course, sanding. Lots and lots of sanding. Probably the staple of this video, besides the knife work you saw, is sanding. There is little bits of gluing though, such as trying to keep this seam together at the rudder. And just as a little side moment, figured it was kind of cute to include my son in here, just to talk about his video game he's playing as I'm doing this.
Yep, that is cool.
I'm gonna miss this after, I guess I've just announced the surprise, haven't I?
I unlocked another
Good job, buddy.
Yeah, so he was playing a game on my computer. Same that I edit on.
Mm-hmm. But it's also with a meal. He can eat his way to pizza, I guess.
So much later in the
cool.
game, it isn't really much of a fight.
Good job, buddy.
The that these take is just, it's a whole other level. I'll explain as we get further into it, but there's a little other quiet moment. Alright. Time to pour some model-making fuel. And I think one of y'all, I think it was Joe, said, you know, you like to use a stout beer. I like to use whiskey, although I will use stout beers too as my model-making fuel. Or I guess I should say sanding lubricant, shouldn't I, with all the sanding I do in this video. The only thing I think I did more of was hemming and hawing, just looking at it going, how am I going to tweak this and put it together? So here I'm using the knife to get rid of that seam there, and again using sandpaper to further get rid of it. Look at that guy all nice and up close. So there we go. Adding a bit of glue just to smooth that transition there, hoping it'll help blend everything together. I eventually start using finer grits of sandpaper, but along with that you'll see I'm adding this white putty in now to really fill in the gaps and the lines. You'll even see traces of me having done that before. I do a lot of that too because, well, there's big gaps and they need to be filled. It's the problem with any airplane. Hoping though that a future aircraft, at least one of them, won't have this problem, but we shall see. Speaking of things that we shall see in about a moment, we're going to see me doing a bit of painting, and of course also addressing somebody in the room. And I'm just going to go ahead and be quiet for a moment and let you enjoy that sweet, sweet air brush sound.
This is probably going to make you sick, kid.
Yeah, also ushering the daughter out of the shop. But, yeah, I figured ASMR, all the cool kids are doing it. Why can't I? Along with things why can't I do, I figured why not have the mic so close to my mouth that it's just spiking up the noise here and making the acoustics kind of, well, chunky. That and of course, why can't I realize that this software I'm using gets a little glitchy sometimes because I'm looking at a gap in my video that doesn't seem to exist when my editing thing. We'll see if that's the case or not when I see it in the editor or see it again in the video. But yeah, here I am, more sanding, and this time also covering these seams with the surfacer. I've seen people use this as a really thin gap fill for kind of final stages of filling in a seam line. And of course after that comes sanding it down with ever refining grits of sandpaper, although I use the rougher grits first. How about some ASMR? That's what all the cool kids are doing. And unfortunately, I have to use this channel as a way to make money because that's the world in which we live. Okay, so I don't see anything in, you know, I don't see any issues on the film screen to the side of that, so okay. Going right along, now I add some paint to get a first coat over the fuselage itself. And I'll be adding some similar paint when I finally do up the whole fuselage. And as you can see, I'm just my standard mix 50-50 with thinner and then cover the whole thing carefully. I'm doing something. Yeah, I guess it was just to show off. And now I get things loose, so snip it out of the sprue. And then glue things in place thereafter. And you can see in the, yes. So here I glue in, those exhaust manifolds using the tweezers. Just gotta get them into place. And I eventually find out that I should have done things a little differently. And you may see that, you probably will further down in the video, where I go, oh hey, I shouldn't have done that. And then proceed to do a bit more correcting of the fuselage so that things look right. There we go. Yep, more trimming. So I use that that little mobbing knife or scalpel. I will use that to take off things from the edges, like, you know, sprue, remaining spits of sprue, mold, flash, and then sometimes, in the case of the seams that I already mentioned, that little bit of excess plastic that kind of splurts outward when you put two pieces of plastic together with an adhesive, a solvent-based adhesive. And here I put things together, I glue this in place, and only then do I realize, or maybe I already fixed it somewhere. Maybe I already fixed it, but there was I had to correct the interior of that fuselage area just a little bit to make the exhaust manifolds more even. And now I take the machine gun cover, trim it down as needed, and then put them right on the on these nose-mounted machine guns. And later on, you'll see me filling those in with more putty and sanding them down, and the filling in and sanding down, and that repeated cycle. Here we go. Here's where I realize that, hey, I made a mistake, and start cutting out the those overly tall supports for this manifold, and then gluing in the again, and putting the manifold back in so it sits a bit more evenly. Yay! Alrighty. Got some more of that ASMR stuff I do coming up in a few minutes. So, okay, here's an important thing I did. So, I really hate when these planes come together and the rudder and the stabilizer and the wings are all off kilter. So I asked myself, how do I make this not happen? And the answer that came to me was fixturing. So you'll see these two Tamiya paint cans as I do some trimming of this stabilizer. I use those along with the vise to get everything nice and square. Maybe I should have made like a little... Maybe I could have 3D printed some kind of fixture, but I'll think about that later when I have other airplane models. So, there we go. As you see, I'm sanding in the corner there because this isn't just the cleaning with the knife thing. You gotta sand things down to it too. And here we go, gluing things in place using those Tamiya bottles as a way to keep everything nice and level and square. And the results, at least from what I see, have been really good. There we go. Now I'm trimming out some bits. Yep, in this case the tail. And then looking at that, I think to myself, okay, I want to do this quick as a little filler-in model while I'm, you know, doing something else in real life. Okay, I've already mentioned it. It's moving. I've been moving. I'll try to do a little clip in the news shop at the end, and part of the next vid's going to be setting it up, but yeah, there we go. How appropriate, getting to business and then the getting to business music sounds. Oh, well, I couldn't have placed this track any better because now we're using power tools. So, I looked at this thing and I thought to myself, that doesn't look like an aircraft landing gear. That just looks like a flat plate onto which, you know, we shove in a little wheel thingy. So what I do is I make it look like a landing gear by cutting out some material and filing it all nice and square. And that way it actually looks like there's a sort of landing gear in this area when I put it in later. There we go. That looks a lot better. That just added a little bit of detail. To me, is really worthwhile. Now I know somebody's saying, you talk of standards, Rich, but you didn't add stringers to the interior of the whole plane. Well, yeah, okay. But this was meant to be a quick, easy thing. And there's a limit to the amount of stringers I'll be adding. We will, however, see the standards resurge in some hilarity in a few minutes. At first, we gotta clean up these wings. Including some ASMR again. Alright. So yeah, I figured it would be fun to show, I pointed in the first video that these markings would be off the people's plane, and now it is off the people's plane. I'm a man of my word, or at least I try to be. Here we go, more correcting of the wing a little bit, just getting rid of mold flash in these areas before digging out some pieces that unfortunately I think ended up breaking later. Oh well, that happens. I'm sure I could have put it back, but again, there are moments where I'm going to go, yeah, okay, this is meant to be a quick thing, and not a giant exercise in trying to be ultra precise. That's also why I'm not going to rescribe panel lines that I destroy later in some of the sanding. It's tempting, it really is, but no, I'm going to save myself the frustration and the headache. So here I go, chopping out the tops of the wings from their sprue, and then correcting the interior of the wings a little bit just to make sure that everything is going to fit and fit nicely. This is not the only correction I'll do to the inside of the wing. This is just the big one I'm going to do. There we go. And now that I've kind of corrected, I start putting it all together with this nice long bead of plastic solvent glue. And after getting everything together, then I start sanding things down to have this leading edge be reasonably flat. And I'll go with this over this in a couple of different grades of sandpaper just to get it as smooth as reasonably achievable. Then I hit this interior area just to make things look a little better. And then I test fit. For the most part, I like what I see, so I continue gluing. There's a little seam in there that I had to hit up. ASMR, why not? You also saw at the end of that bit that I actually used some sanding sponges. So now what I'm doing is those wheel empty things in the wheel wells, those actually looked full on the aircraft and they look ugly here. So I'm correcting this. I'm actually making it more accurate by making that look more smooth and more covered. Alright, what's the next song going to be? Why not? Something nice and sleepy to give us all a rest from all the camera jumping around like every 10 seconds. Sometimes 5, usually 10. I heard you're supposed to do that with these videos to make them more engaging to people's brain. Please tell me if I'm doing a good job. So there we go. Now I've filled in these two wheel areas with something that's flat, which will be a better background. Then I start wondering what I'm doing. I think I had to do a little more correcting of things. Okay, yeah, just correcting the general shape of the wings so that they'll actually take the pieces they need to take. And then cutting out these back flaps, which are going to be all the way down, just because why not have that detail out there. Going over, removing bits or ejector pin marks, or gate marks or something. I think it's ejector pin marks, though. Angling these as appropriate. And then you'll see me either I'll glue them first, or I think I put in the... yep, okay, so those are little, like, clips. Because the model says, hey, don't glue these in position. Well, I found a position I liked, so I'm gluing them in position. And as you can see, here I am, breaking the rules, both in the time-lapse corner and in front of the main screen. Yay, glue. So there we go. Alright, is this it? I think this is where I more than just test fit them this time. I think this is where I bring them all together. Here we go. Nope, nope, that's getting filled in. No, no. Okay, there we go. So as you see, the standards are still in force. That big of a gap, no. That's getting filled in. It's easy to fill in. You'll see me fill it in a while after I trim out these wheels and trim out the little tires. And eventually I'll end up losing a piece. and maybe at the end of this clip where I lose it, and then having it go cut out a substitute from the styrene sheet. There we go. I lost it, and then I proceed to cut a circle out on the styrene sheet to match it with another piece that was on. It was a little, and then glue that substitute piece into its appropriate wheel. So there was like a flat side on the wheel that was part of the whole thing, and I glue that in there. So, forgive the yawn, stretch. I'm chronically tired, like all the time these days. It's annoying. Anyway, so here we go, cleaning up the landing gear bit, cleaning up, and I'll be cleaning it up again. Just the other side now. And eventually, besides trying to add things for test fit, if I do it here, is I'll eventually, okay, here we go, put together the other wheel. There we go. Another modification I made to the landing gear was to actually make it look like they were standing up off of that, off of those flat pieces. And you'll see me glue in these pieces of styrene strip I tried to set up to look like structural members. And then you'll see me actually cut them level to each other so that they'll be nice and flat when I put them onto the, glue them in a position where they're actually on those, in the landing gear slots. And after that's all together, jiggle things in, and then glue it all into place. And of course, let my hair get in the way. Alright, so I guess there's one more clue to the surprise at the end of this, is that I'm going to fill the intro with the new shop in all its disarrayed glory, and then the beginning of the next episode is going to be me trying to make the shop work. Alright, here we go. Here's the plane, on its way to getting ever closer to finished. And of course, me seeing that, yeah, there's a giant seam line between the wings, and well, yeah, I'm just not going to have that. No. You do not pass go, you do not collect $200. Not that you would play Go in Russia because, well, the Soviet Union at the time, because they were socialist. And Monopoly is actually meant to be a critique of capitalism, not socialism. Here we go. So you see that thing where I said no, that it's going away? Yeah, I'm going to fill in a large base of it with plastic card, and then fill the gaps between the plastic card and the rest of the plane with some putty. So first, though, I got to cut a piece of plastic and start trimming it down to size. So here we go. Evaluate how that goes in, and it's either, yeah, okay. So I skip the part where I drop it and have to fish it out for like 15 minutes with the tweezers. And now I just put an angle on the back of it to try to match what's going on. And eventually, as you see in the corner with quite a bit of effort, it goes in. And it doesn't fall in this time, which means I don't have to go hunting it down for another 20 minutes. Thank God. Okay, so here we go. Now I'm using the putty again to fill in more gaps, and then using sandpaper to further smooth out putty. Not just on the, on the wings, but also all over. Along with the, in some places I end up using the scalpel as well, but mostly I'm using just the, there we go, the sandpaper. And some more putty filling in, just to make things neater. Yep, just because it's not going to be perfect. And in each of the corners, again, you can see larger portions of time-lapsed footage. There we are. So, yep, and this is the last track in this footage before I go and show you in closing a new shop. So, okay, the other thing about standards. You know how I said I wasn't adding in interior, stuff to the fuselage? That only applied to the fuselage, and in particular that wheel well area, that last landing gear. Because I looked at this big, flat thing, And I looked at there was, structural stuff on the other side of that, and I was like, I'm sorry. That does not work. This does not pass go. Nor does this go to the Politburo to file whatever form you need to get in the Soviet Union to fill food. You know, the one you can't get if you're in the Ukraine because Holodomor? Okay, that got way too political. Okay, I am poking a hornet's nest with that. Poking it with some rather sensitive dangly bits, so let's not. So let's just focus on me skipping the footage around a little bit as I go through this whole process of just taking strips of styrene strip and then putting them in position and gluing them, either gluing them on like a thin knife's edge or in a bit more of a broad fashion, and eventually trimming off excess strip. So this is the state of the plane, other than painting a bit of final stuff just to make the cockpit a bit more appropriate. And then we shall see the results of my move, and hopefully in the next video you'll get to see a bit more of turning the room into a proper shop. Yay, painting. Okay, so it really is just a small closet. Okay, I lied. That's going to be the annex, I'm going to call it. I don't know what I'm doing in there. But hey, moving up. Moving up quite a lot, because this place has a good backyard. It's all fenced in for the kids, too. Yay! Things are going up! Yay! But, alright, so here is the initial laying out of things. So it's all in here, so I can actually lay it out proper. So, I'm Rich. I build stuff, and, yeah, here's the shop, the area that the shop's going to be in, and next episode will involve quite a bit of me building that up, but that isn't as important as trying out a new YouTube dance. So here we go. Like, share, subscribe. Bang the bell too, I guess. I don't know. Alright, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed. I'm Rich. I build stuff. This has been P-40 Part 2. Peace out for now.